just what you sow.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Awesome Bros. Trevor here, joined by Sam, and today we are talking about Perfect Days, which happens to be my favorite film of the year. This is the new Wim Wenders work. It is a guy who cleans toilets in Tokyo, and it made me cry a lot. So it stars Koji Yakusho giving alongside Lily Gladstone one of my favorite performances of the year. Great supporting work from Tokyo Moto, Risa Nako, Ayo Yamada, just all around. This film really stunned me. It kind of functions just as like a day in the life type thing, almost like a day in a week in a sense. And I think we go through 2 weeks of Koji Yakusho's character's life, and he's just a toilet cleaner in Tokyo, and he's just kind of goes through with like his day-to-day experience, and it's just really about the random little encounters that you make with people that make the supposedly menial days perfect. I know I'll let you open because I know immediately like weren't as in love with it as I was.
So I mean, when someone tells you that this movie that they just watched is their number one of the year and is in their
Right.
top whatever of all time, that's obviously going to place an unreasonable expectation on the viewer.
Yeah.
And when I first watched it, I was also really in a hurry, and I had like the trailers at this theater went longer than I thought they were going to, and I had to like run to where I needed to be. So like there was stress, and I don't like that theater. It has uncomfortable seats. Someone on TikTok I saw a couple of years ago talking about the best theaters in New York City brought up the theater and was like, "Oh, the seating is so cute." Cute seating is not what you want. You want comfortable seating.
Yeah.
And cute seating means crammed and not comfortable. So I'm not into that. I was also sitting like further away from the screen than I like to be. I like to be pretty close because I like to like
basically you were off for this.
Yeah, so the viewing experience wasn't my favorite. However, with thought, the film has gotten better in my mind. I've been able to piece more things together that I didn't understand when I first watched it that definitely have marinated well. But one thing that I always thought was incredible was Koji Yakusho's performance.
Yeah.
Like Trevor, I would say is my favorite performance by a lead actor this year.
Yeah.
And what solidified that was, no spoilers, but the final shot of the film.
Right.
Definitely did that for me.
It was giving the final shot of Johan Dman to me. Like,
it's a very beautiful way to wrap it up, and his expression is like unparalleled. Just a beautiful performer.
Yeah, went to the Sarah Snook School of Facial Acting. Like I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. The one thing to just kind of get into the work a bit more, I guess, as far as the thematic piece of it. One thing that really struck me was, I remember there was this quote from Richard Linklater, where he was talking about, it might be on the special features of like the Before trilogy Criterion, or something like that. But it's this interview, and he's talking about why he chose to write basically a film about two people walking around the city and talking. And he's like, we're always told in film that, you know, like the things that we see in big blockbusters, like that's what's important, and that's what's interesting, and that's what's exciting about life in the world. And he's like, you know, so I can go watch James Bond go on like a speedboat chase, and that might be, you know, exciting or interesting, but I think that my life is pretty interesting.
Why isn't doing a little simple task?
Right, and this is something that Chantal Akerman gets into very directly with like her theory of like the hierarchy of images, as far as the images that we are told are important versus the images that are like, you know, like really important to making society function, but are severely undervalued within cinema. And a lot of those images are, you know, the work that was at the time traditionally associated with women, right? Like, you know, housework and stuff like that. With, I think, what the Before trilogy looks at is just two people talking. And I think we so often overlook that in so many of the blockbusters. The talking sequences are just treated as something to get through, so that way you have context for the exciting parts, right? The action moments. Right, and the dialogue sequences, they do absolutely nothing aside for give you reason to care, basically, about the exciting parts. And Richard Linklater with the Before trilogy was just like, I like talking to people. I find my conversations with people really interesting. Like, so we're just gonna make something about talking to people. And another thing that's typically suppressed within the hierarchy of images are images of the working class. And I think Perfect Days very directly deals with that, and just somebody doing their day-to-day job, and it isn't a glamorous job. It's, cleaning the trash, but, and is this what this person wanted to do with their life? Probably not. And we get allusions to that as he encounters like his sister, when we see his niece and stuff like that, who seems relatively well off, and like she has like a very like high paying position in wherever she's working. But he's doing this, and while it maybe isn't what he wanted, he's for the most part content, and he finds value in the little perfect type of things. And I think Linklater continues the quote by basically talking about like, we watch all of these big like epics and odysseys, but in reality, like every person is living their own epic and odyssey. Everybody is the protagonist in their own massive decade spanning epic.
And just because something is of a bigger physical scale doesn't mean that its importance
right
is greater than that of those other people.
And the idea is that you can pack the exact same emotional punch and emotional weight as something that, has the stakes of saving the world versus something as simple as completing a task for the day, cleaning your house.
Absolutely.
Because for that person, that is the most important thing for them at that moment. And that is what is giving, them drive. And that is what will make them, have emotion. And that is what will make them happy. And that is what will, give their life meaning for that brief glimpse of time. And I love looking at cinema that way. I've never really found myself able to like, people always talk about like cinema as like an escape, right? And you're escaping, and things like fantasy worlds or superheroes or sci-fi or things like that, like I never really found that as an escape. But something like
I'm just bored. I'm thinking about my daily task when I'm watching those movies.
Right, but something like Perfect Days is just like, Johan Dman is my favorite film of all time, and I love things like Before Trilogy and things like that. Like, it's just, it feels like something where I'm able to just like kind of engross myself in this person's problems, in this person's life, in this person's world. And there is a sequence of dialogue in Perfect Days, which, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about, but it's when he's talking, Koji Yakusho's character, when he's talking to his niece. And he's talking about how everybody has their own world, and we're all drifting around, and everybody has all these things that are drifting around their world and orbiting them. And sometimes those orbit paths cross, and sometimes you cross over into somebody else's world. And for like a brief glimpse in a brief period of time, you intertwine with that person. Then maybe you leave their orbit and you never see them again. And that's what makes life special. And he was able to see his niece for just a little bit, and he would capture these things on camera, and he'd notice all these little things, and she'd notice all the little intricacies, and she was new to his orbit, so she brought new and different perspective to all the little things that he was doing that he didn't even realize, like the tic-tac-toe and stuff like that, that he was playing, marking a tic-tac-toe card and leaving it for the person to fill it the next day. And like all these tiny little things that like have meaning and are important, even if they're only important to the people to whom they pertain.
Yeah, I had a film teacher who always said, you have to trim off the fat and make your films with the least amount of fat as possible and make them so tight. And like, what does that even mean? Like, what are you to decide what is important and what isn't? It's all relative to how you structure the film and what your focus is intended to be. The use of that word just bothers me, because it doesn't really say anything other than I was bored during this moment, therefore I don't think it should have been there, and you should cut it out. And I understand in that context we all had to make short films.
But also I don't think
it in the context of a 3-hour time period. But like in general, it sort of forced me to think that all films need to have to cut off the fat of nothing happening and scenes where nothing happens. That's just not the case.
I have Aftersun in behind me, and like if you've seen the film, one of my favorite shots and sequences in that film is really early on, and it is when they're at their hotel room early on, and we're just kind of sitting with Frankie Corio's character. And you see outside through the window the silhouette of Paul Mescal smoking. And I think it's so gorgeous because you can hear Frankie Corio's character breathing, like the daughter, you hear her breathing in her breath, and like, she's supposed to be asleep, and her dad, Paul Mescal, he thinks that she's asleep, and you can see all of his thought process of smoking, and he says, like, this maybe isn't something that he should be doing, but he's doing it anyways. And, he's on vacation, he's with his daughter, and he shouldn't, and he should have set a bad example, but also this is something that, like, he wants to do, and she's asleep, so it's okay. And you see all these things, and it's like this 3 or 4 minute shot where it's just basically holding on him, kind of like smoking and then putting it down and then smoking. And, you're with Frankie Corio, and that she's watching because you can hear her breathing. And I find it so gorgeous. And it's like, if you see a film purely as just a plot delivery machine, that's not important. But I think it teaches you so much about their dynamic and how their relationship is, and how they feel like they're so connected, even though they're both concealing things from each other. And it does so much for just within those few moments establishing their relationship, and then also giving you as an audience member the space to reflect on your own relationships with your parents, and the things that maybe they hid from you, and the things that you hid from your friend, and all these types of things. And it allows you to put so much emotionally into the film, which then it can let you pour out by the end. And I think that those moments are beautiful. Like, boredom isn't something that should be avoided. Boredom can be a great tool when telling a story to get people thematically engaged and invested in what you're trying to say. And yeah, I don't know. I'm in love with just like slow cinema and this style of storytelling. And like, I could go on for this movie forever. Like how it uses dreams and images within his dreams each night when he goes to sleep, as a way of kind of just like abstractly reflecting. And it's almost like it's daring you to find meaning in those dreams. Like it's like, like egging you on, like try to find meaning, try to interpret these in some way. When in reality, like, they probably don't mean anything, but they're just like letting you sit in those quiet moments where maybe it's nice that nothing means anything. Maybe it's nice to sit and breathe in those moments where nothing actually matters.
Yeah, those were my favorite parts of the movie because it was just kind of soothing. Like, I didn't really know what was happening, but it felt very like calming, and like the patterns and the sound effects were
Yeah.
very relaxing and tranquil, and just allows you to sit and breathe for a moment that a lot of movies don't leave time for that because they're concerned
Yeah.
about getting somewhere.
Yeah.
This movie isn't really concerned about reaching a point or
Yeah.
saying something specific.
Yeah. It's just concerned with being, which I think is just like incredible.
Beautiful. It's
Like
beautiful.
it's so beautiful. And again, like, not like everything doesn't have, like, not everything has to have meaning. Some things can just be, and some things can just exist. And the scene that really wrecked me and made me begin to sob, which we'll get into some spoilers, but there's a sequence where he plays shadow tag with an older man, and it's just like this moment of like pure joy, where you're seeing these people who obviously they each have a lot of issues on their own that they're each dealing with, and they're playing like this child's game almost, where they're trying to step on each other's shadow. And again, it's just it's not really important, and it's just this moment that they're both sharing, and they're probably never going to tell anybody about this, and they're probably never going to ever like even see each other again. But it's just this little moment that they were able to share, where they were just able to exist together.
And it goes on for probably 10 minutes.
Right. And it's just, you're watching these two like 60-year-old men play shadow tag together and laugh and, have fun. And it's just, I don't know, it made me start to sob because it's just so beautiful. Like, we're so concerned with rushing by and moving on to the next thing, when we can just sit
When
and
that
I know
next thing is never what we take away. It's always the smaller,
it's always
spontaneous
the smaller moments, right? Those are
Oh.
always what define something. It's always the moments before and after the important thing that you remember. It's always the feelings of those important things, not the actual doing of the thing. And I think it's really fitting that this was, I believe it was my last movie that I saw, at least in person, at this festival, at Chicago International Film Festival, after rushing around for days, seeing 3 to 4 films a day, and just being able to end on this and just sit and breathe and not have to rush and not have to move on. And I think that, like, you were almost in the opposite position, where right afterwards you had to rush and you had to move on, which I think
That probably ruined it. I'd probably need to watch it again to really get
yeah. And it's just like to have that feeling, because I think that if you're going into it kind of stressed, and with that knowing that, you got to rush somewhere afterwards, it's harder to kind of sit and breathe in these moments. Like, I walked out and in the parking garage afterwards, I thought I was done. crying, and I walked in the parking garage and I saw this older guy taking out the trash from the parking garage, and I looked at him and I just started sobbing because it was just I don't know. Kind of linking back to that Linklater quote, like it's you can look at anybody, go out on the street, look at any single person, and they are all the protagonists in the most exciting story of their life.
Yeah, that's why I always find it weird how people are like, "Oh, you're such a main character." Like
We are
everyone
all the main
is.
character of our life.
Right.
And we're all the, our life is the most exciting thing that will ever happen to us. We're not gonna have, we didn't have a life before, and we're never going to be able to feel or do anything once we're dead. This is it. This is all that we have. And and everybody has their own individual thing, and stories are being started and stopped at every single second of every single day. Like so many stories just come and go. And that links back to the idea that's expressed in the film about we are all just drifting in and out of each other's orbit, in each other's stories, and we're all the supporting character of somebody's life. We're all a part somehow, and it's just that I don't know, linked feeling where it's like we're so distant from everybody, but at the same time we're a part of everybody's life in some way. And
Even if we're an extra.
right, exactly. And we're all just passing through, right? There's a really beautiful quote from Before Midnight, actually.
She appears and she disappears like a sunrise or a sunset or anything so ephemeral. Just like our life. We appear and we disappear. And we are so important to some, but we are just passing through.
Everything that we does English, everything that we do, like it only matters or doesn't matter as much as we make it matter or not matter, because at the end we are all just passing through somebody else's life, and they'll take on that little piece, and then they'll just pass through somebody else as that person takes on, and it's just, again, if you don't choose to find meaning in the little things, it's going to be hard to have any perfect days, right? So I don't know. This film just, I think, is
It
absolutely
really
beautiful.
spoke to you.
Yeah. I
As
just
a monologue.
I adore stuff like this. I mean, as I said, Johan Dman is my favorite film of all time. I love films where I'm just able to sit and breathe and think, and the film is encouraging me to interrogate my own sense of self and being. Like, that's why I love Tarkovsky's work, because so much of his, like, I don't know, Tarkovsky and Bergman, like so much of their work is just so pensive, and just allows for reflection. Reichardt, I think I would categorize under there as well. I
And
love
hopefully
these.
Celine's song when she keeps.
Yeah, I mean, Celine's song, where she keeps going, like, I love these filmmakers that just ask you to breathe. And I think it is just so beautiful, because, like, I mean, just by the very act of watching this film all together, like, you're connected with all these people, but you all watched a different film, right? You all watched you all had a completely different experience. You all perceived everything completely differently, because we're all entirely unique people that are going to feel and experience things in completely different ways. But for that brief moment of time, we were all experiencing our own version of the same thing. And that's why, go to the theater and watch
That's why you
movies.
should enjoy art and appreciate it, especially
Exactly.
film as a uniquely audiovisual experience.
Right. Go and feel. Don't just go to absorb and, like a plot and, get like a plot delivered to you. Like, sit, feel, engage, enjoy the abstraction, enjoy not knowing things. I think that, like, I don't know. I just love just being able to, like, I don't know, think about my own sense of self, think about everybody's sense of self through cinema. This is the type of film for me that just really recontextualizes, like, how I view art and appreciate art and love art in that way. And I feel like I've rambled a lot through this, but it's a great fucking movie, and watch it, please. It's my favorite of the year. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. Watch it.
Yeah. I need to rewatch it before I read it.
I think you like
No,
it.
but I it's definitely high. It's just I need to absorb it properly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that don't rush out to see it. if that makes sense. Like
No, I'll
take
probably
time.
watch it at home.
Yeah, but like take time and like find the right place like the right place and time in your life to see this. Like it isn't something that you can just go into at any moment if you really want to, I feel like, feel the full effects. Like I think you'll like it. I mean, you still like the film, but if you want to have like a religious experience like I did, like pick and choose your moment.
I will.
But anyways, I've rambled a lot, but that Perfect Days, my favorite movie of the year. Watch it, please. And that is it. Did you have anything else to add? I feel like I haven't let you speak that much.
No,
Sorry.
all you.
All right. Well, those are our thoughts on Perfect Days. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You can find our links to social media if that's something that you are interested in. But until next time, stay safe, everybody, and goodbye.